Okay, then, yeah, I would say let's start now. Yeah, welcome to this webinar, Automation CLI, a technical overview of the Tricise Action Pack. My name is Christian Versek. I'm an automation consultant at Tricise, and I'm working with Automic since 2007. Maybe a little bit more about my person. I've started the career at UC4 at that point, 2007. Then I've worked there quite long, so I've go through this journey since UC4 was rebranded to Automic. Then I go through the acquisition by CA, then afterwards the acquisition by Broadcom. Unfortunately, we were divested to HCL, and finally I've joined Tricise to go on working with the automation product with Automic. At Tricise, some words about that. Tricise is one of the tier 1 partners for automation and value ops at Broadcom. And if you have a view on the badges, what I've just adjusted to this slide, because this information is quite new, we received these awards for the last fiscal year, which gives me the impression that obviously, and I hope so, we are doing a good job on that field. Yeah, I would like to give the information as well that we are offering additional webinars next to that kind of automation CLI service delivery webinar. We are offering probably some webinars about other solutions what we've developed at Tricise. We will offer a webinar regarding the AMS offering, which is the Automic Managed Service offering, and probably about the Automic University. Yeah, so you can follow our LinkedIn profile quite easily so that you get this information about what webinars will come up. Or you could subscribe our newsletter to get this information, right? Maybe as an information regarding that webinar. For now, I will be the only one who will speak, so there will be no possibility for you to interrupt me at that time. We will do it that way. I will give the presentation, I will go through the points, and right after a questions and answer session where I will give some questions and answer by myself, because I'm quite sure that you are quite interested in that kind of answers what I will give you. You can put on your own questions in the chat, and then I will try to answer as good as possible. If something else will happen during this presentation, if I'm not that loud as expected, if you don't see anything, yeah, put everything in the chat in between, probably, so that we can get rid of that problem. Okay, so what will happen is I will give you an overview about the automation CLI solution. I will talk about the let's say what it is, how it's working, what it is, what you are able to do with it. Yeah? So what possibilities you can achieve with that, and then afterwards I will go through some of the modules we've developed inside this automation CLI product, so that you, or let's call it a solution. Yeah, if it's a product, then I would say then it's sticked to a specific license using a subscription. When we're talking about solutions, then we're talking about you buy it once and then you can use it without the subscription. And if you need an update, then you have to double check with us once again. But this is something where I would like to talk about a little bit later. In the morning, I already had this session in German, and it was quite straightforward. But at the end of the day, we didn't have that time for the demo. I guess we will not have the time to demo something here as well. If time is left, then I can show you probably some things. But I will first quickly go through everything what you are capable to do with that. So then let's start with the very first slide, or the second slide here. How does it work? Yeah, everything starts with an Automic environment. Maybe you know this this picture from our SaaS overview. You always have your Automic Automation engine with the attached database. You know about that components. Yeah, there are the WPs, so the working processes, the JWPs, Java working processes, the JCPs, which are the Java communication processes, the REST process, and the AWI, which is the possibility, so to say, the front end for users where they are connect to and they are able to do something. And this is what will happen now. Here, you as a user has the possibility to connect to AWI, connect to the system, then you do something, probably just execute an object, and then afterwards, when you're fine with that, then you are logged out. The idea of the automation CLI was more or less the same, but to do it in a more automatic way. If you think about to do a lot of things inside the automation engine, yeah, so then you would use the automation CLI, which was in former time called consulting tools or UC4 tools. Yeah, there were several names, but they were more or less all doing the same. The automation CLI in that way works more or less the same way as a user. Yeah, it connects to a Java communication process using specific credentials. So for that reason, it would be recommended that you probably create a technical user for that, which is allowed to do what the automation CLI should be allowed to do. Yeah, you're connecting to the system using the JCP, then you do something in the system, and this something can be quite intensive. Yeah, let's think about to do some mass updates, to do executions 1,000 times, to do cancellations 1,000 times. Everything what you won't do as a normal user. This is something what the automation CLI can do in an automated way. It was the more or less old approach, as we designed the automation CLI as a command line tool, which is working on your machine. Then you start something from the command line, and then it exactly does what I've just described. It logs in, then it does something, and then it logs out. But we will talk about the advantages and disadvantages to the next slide. The next idea would be to have the automation CLI as an action pack, which can be loaded to the automation engine itself. And then you are just executing this action pack or the actions inside. And then something will happen. The tool will be transferred to the agent, and the agent will execute this functionality what was implemented in this action pack. Yeah. So in other words, the agent is calling the automation CLI. One moment here, and then it's connecting to the JCP once back and does something in on the automation engine, and then it logs out. Yeah. So the old or the very, very old approach was that you do everything as a user. Yeah, the automation CLI gives the the automatic way to do something in the automation engine, and the action pack does the same, but in a more usable way. Yeah, if you're familiar with this concept of action packs, you will know what I mean. Let's go through the next slide. So the why we don't use the consulting tools, and I've already answered this question, because this is the old approach. Yeah, so to get it a little bit more clearer, the consulting tools, or call it UC4 tools. Yeah, so everything what you have on your machine and what has to be executed by yourself, then you have to enter this consulting tools, or to start this, we call it a module, by using this syntax. Yeah, you have to know that you have to start it with Java. You have to know that the syntax must be exactly that way. Java minus jar consulting tools dot jar with this specific feature with this specific parameters. In other words, not everybody knows how to start that kind of things. Yeah, and that was exactly the idea to build this up as an action pack for the following advantages. Yeah, the new approach, now the action pack is called CLI, Automation CLI. Yeah, this is in fact that we have several other solutions or action packs in place which are working more or less the same, but are doing some different things. Yeah, but for now we are talking about this Automation CLI tool, which is, by the way, a Java-based action pack. So the functionality is based on what we had in the past, what we call the CLI tools, consulting tools, or UC4 tools. Yeah, but with using this as an action pack, we've got an improved usability, which gives the advantage that you get, or that we get more attention to customers, because an action pack is much easier to handle than a command line interface, where everybody has to know how the command has to be if you would like to use it. Yeah, by using an action pack, I will show you this in the next slide. You just start the action you would like to have, then you fill in every fields in the corresponding prompt set, and then you submit it, and then everything's fine. Yeah, so we get more attention to customers and acceptance to customers, and by the way, to colleagues. Yeah, so even colleagues of mine are probably not familiar with the syntax of that kind of consulting tools, but with the action pack, and if they know how to handle with action packs, it's quite easy to use these. Yeah, there's an improved integration, furthermore, with other solutions, because let's think about that. You have an action pack like the Automation CLI, and there are probably other action packs which are based on that, or probably are a prerequisite of that, because even here the action pack has a prerequisite like the ITPA action pack, which is the base action pack of the majority of all of these packs. Yeah, we will show this in the next slide. And one further advantage is the standardization. Yeah, action packs are standardized packages to build up or to receive some special functionalities. Yeah, they are always the same feature names, and the functionalities are quite equal to each other. Yeah, an action pack which is based on CLI is always designed that it starts with a workflow, with an if else workflow. So it just checks the agent what I'm using. Is it a Windows or a Unix one? If it's a Windows one, then I will go the Windows way, and I will start the Windows syntax in the Windows equal way, or the other way around. The Unix command will be executed differently. Yeah? Think about an action pack which will perform a dir command. Yeah? Then the Windows way will execute dir, dir, but the other way around, if you would like to execute the same on Unix, will be an ls command. at the end of the day, both functionalities are doing the same, but on the one hand, it's the Windows dir command, and on the other hand, the ls command on Unix. So once again, how does it work? Yeah, so what has to be done to make it runnable? So first of all, the installation has to be the ITPA action pack. As I've already said, this ITPA action pack is a prerequisite of the majority of all action packs. Now, this has to be installed up front. Afterwards, you can install this automation CLI action pack directly in the same client. And we are always talking about, let's say, clients, but not client 0. So once you've installed this action pack, you can execute a predefined action, which is called configuration add. Yeah, so even the configuration of this pack can be done by using an execution of an action. Yeah, so think about, you don't have to go through some specific variables to change something, to build up something, and you don't know how it really works. Yeah, you just have to start configuration add, then it will pop up a prompt set which is asking for some things. I will show you this a little bit. I guess the next one here exactly. Then once you've created your configuration, then you can test this installation of the action pack by starting an action which is called system info. The system info action simply logs into the system, gather some information of your system, print it to the report of the agent, and once this is done, you can it logs out from the system. Yeah, but if it was able to log into the system to do something and to log out of the system, then this installation is done. Yeah, this can be done quite quickly. We're just talking about minutes. So now the usage of these actions. Yeah? Next to the configuration add and the system info, we have several other actions where we call it modules. And if you would like to execute one of those, then you execute the desired action. You have to select your configuration, what you've just added in the installation. And now think about the question, what's a configuration? Configuration is the connection, including credentials, to a system and a client, or to the same system but another client, or to another system and a completely other client. Yeah, so you could also create multiple configurations if you would like to interact with them a little bit. For example, if you would like to transport something or to export and import objects, then you need two configurations. One configuration, for example, for system A, client 100, and system A, client 200. Then you export your objects from client 100 using the configuration for client 100, and you would like to import objects to client 200, but then you have to use configuration for client 200. Yeah, so once again, in other words, you have to execute your action, then the pop-up will show you what configuration you would like to have, so what system and what client. Then you fill the necessary or the optional parameters of the specific action. It could well be that there are several parameters, or it could well be that actions not even have a single parameter, just like the system info. Once you've entered this, you just have to select your agent which should start this action and a corresponding login. Yeah, and once you press submit, then it works, hopefully, and you hopefully enjoy it. So now I will go through the several modules so that you receive an impression what you can do with this. The very first of all is the configuration, what I've just described, and the quick description of that is that you are able with this module to add, to remove, or to update configuration of an action pack. Yeah, as I said, during this very first installation and the configuration of that, you have to add at least one configuration so that you are able to connect to the system. And this will this module will help you with that. Yeah, so once you've started this configuration add, for example, then it will ask for the following parameters. We need a specific name for your configuration. For example, Automation Engine 210, so a 21 system, for example, underscore client 100. Furthermore, it would need the Java executable path. So it could well be that even in your path variable, Java wasn't set. In this case, it would not be sufficient to just enter Java. If it's not the case, then you have to enter the full path where Java is installed, or probably you would like to change your Java installation from the one Java version to the next one. Regarding the compatibility, I will get back to that later, okay? Then you will need your parameters and credentials to the automation engine. And think about that. What is necessary to connect to an automation engine? You need the host name, you need the port, the JCP port, yeah, which is normally 8443, and the certificates, or the certificate, the trusted certificate folder. Yeah, it's exactly the same what you would need for an agent or for the AWI. Yeah, even the AWI needs the host name, the port, the certificates, or maybe the certificates are stored in the Java key store. Yeah, but these are necessary. Next to that, you need the information which client to connect to. In this case, corresponding to this name, I would suggest it would be client 100. Then you would need a user, a department, and a password. Yeah? And here it would make sense to pre-create a user which is allowed to do everything you would like to do in your system and to name it as a technical user. Furthermore, with the configuration, you can specify a log folder or a log file configuration and a trace file configuration, that in case if something strange happens, that you can see where the problem was and probably can solve this. And at the end of the day, you would need a license key. This will be delivered by Tricise, which works exactly for that kind of solutions. For example, even with a specific time frame, so that we are able to give you a test time to so that you can do a PSC with that, for example. Yeah, this has nothing to do with some license which Broadcom gives you. Yeah, this is just to avoid that this solution will be handed over from customer to customer. Okay, next module. Yeah, and now we are talking about modules which are really doing something in the system. Yeah, the configuration was just to ensure that you can configure your system in a quite usable way. Now we're talking about the very first module, which is objects usage. What does it do? The object usage is analyzing, or is able to analyze your system for objects which have statistics or a specific usage. In other words, you can completely search through your complete structure. Every object is analyzed for statistic and usage. And this information will be stored in a predefined variable object, so that you have a list of all your named object names and the corresponding information about, does it have a statistic or does it have a usage, or both or nothing. Yeah, and for that reason we need specific parameters. So we need we need the information what exactly should be analyzed. Only one object. Oh, sorry. Yeah, only one object, and we will use this input type object. Or are the objects to be analyzed stored in a file, in a variable object, or in a folder? yeah, in an automation engine folder. Yeah, let's stick to that. Yeah, if I would like to analyze a complete automation engine folder, then I have to use this option. And in the next parameter, I have to specify what folder has to be analyzed. For example, /apps/test. And the next parameter would be my variable, which will be created to store this information. Furthermore, there's one parameter missing, which is called recursive, because I would like to go through the apps and test folder recursively. So even if there are subfolders, everything below shall be analyzed as well. And then I can specify what would I like to analyze. Shall I analyze the usage, the statistic, or both, or nothing? Nothing doesn't make sense for sure. Yeah, but in most of the cases, both are set to true so that everything can be analyzed. If you would like to exclude or to include specific objects during this analysis, you can specify that here. Yeah, for example, you don't want to analyze some login objects because you don't want to clean them up anyway. Yeah, but exactly that is the reason for this action. Yeah, to analyze the system, and if there are objects without without a statistics and without the usage, then they are probably trash, and then you can think about clean them up. So the next module goes in more or less the same direction. It's called Objects Relations, and this was a module which was created in former times as we've released the transport solution. Maybe one of you may know it. It was a solution to transport objects from system to system, from client to client. And a very nice feature inside that was to gather relations of one root object, which means this module analyzes all related objects to a given root object name, which could be a workflow or a master workflow. Yeah, and for that reason, the very first parameter is the object name. For example, the workflow job p.master_workflow. And we would assume that this master workflow has probably multiple sub-workflows and multiple sub-tasks. And the reason for that we would like to gather everything is probably that we would like to know what's connected to each other, and probably we would like to put everything in the transport case, everything in a row, and not just clicking everything. Yeah. For that reason, you can simply specify just the master workflow. Then you say, I would like to have it recursive, which means that the related objects will be analyzed as well. Yeah. So it goes through from the workflow, from the master workflow to the sub workflow. And if there are further sub workflows in this sub workflow, then it will analyze again. It goes that far that it even analyzes the script tabs for activate UC object statements to know that obviously there's an object which is activated in a script, and then even that is related. Yeah, or includes which are stored in the scripts are related in this case as well, and then it will be analyzed once again. Yeah, this can be set to true or false. Yeah, if you put this to false, then it will just analyze the direct relations, which means the sub workflows, but not the sub of the sub workflows. Okay. The transport set true or false can be done to put everything which is related to this master workflow automatically to the transport case, so that you can afterwards unload your transport case and load it into another system or client. And the same as in the action pack or in the action before, you can exclude some names or exclude some types which should not be analyzed for relations. For example, you would like to carve out includes, or you would like to carve out logins. Yeah. And another possibility is that you can put everything in an output file which contains a list of the related objects to this master workflow for whatever reason. So this is objects delete. This is quite easy to understand. This is simply the possibility to delete all objects contained in a given source type. And here we've got the same concept. You can either delete one object or multiple objects which are stored in file, var, or folders. The input name belongs or is in relation to what you've decided here. If you would like to analyze your specific folder or you would like to delete a specific folder, then you have to specify folder here, use as the input name your specific automation engine folder, and you can set this to recursive, that everything will be processed recursively in that folder, and then everything will be deleted inside. With delete source, true or false, even this folder apps test will be deleted. And here as well, you can set some filters to include types, to exclude types, or to exclude names, which are probably which you don't want to delete. So I guess I have to hurry up a little bit. The next module, objects export, is the possibility to export objects, even here contained in a given source type. And the question here is the more, so as far as I would expect is that we are quite familiar with this. So the main question is, where does this action export all objects? And here we've got a destination operating system folder, which is a folder on your operating system. And this could be /temp/export. If you are starting this module, then all objects which are stored in this apps test folder will be exported, and this action pack will automatically create the same folder structure as it was defined in the automation engine itself. Here we've got the same recursive possibility, and here you can specify, I would like to create a structure, and then it will automatically create same structure. Further, it will clean the destination if we have probably pre-started this object export and would like to start it once again. Then it ensures that the destination folder is cleaned up front before we've started the next export. And as well, we've got the include, exclude possibilities, the filter options here as well. If you would like to include or to exclude some objects to be exported. The very last possibility here is the thread amount, because the object export and even the object import can be quite intensive. And for that reason, we've designed this module as multi-threading capable, so that you can specify one or more threads to scale the performance of that. If you're using just one thread, it's quite slow. And by increasing the amount of threads, it becomes more performant. But keep in mind, everything what you are doing with that is completely processed on the automation engine, exactly the same as you would do it manually. In other words, if 10 people are creating multiple exports or imports, then it will cause performance on the system or workload on the system, which could probably harm the system. So keep it a little bit in mind that you don't put this thread number that high that your system performance will go down. Well, the same for objects transport, but here they will not create a transport case. In this case, it's the same as the export, but it will just set the transport flag to all objects contained in a given source type. Even here, I would specify my folder, and then it will go through all this, or it will go through this folder and including the subfolders to set all objects to set the transport flag on all these contained objects. Here, the same with the filter possibilities. And if you would like to have it, an output file which contains the objects which where the transport flag was set. Yeah, keep in mind, only the transport flag was set. The unload button has to be pressed by yourself. Okay, this is the other way around of the objects export module. Yeah, this is the objects import module. And it does, as expected, an import of all objects contained in a given structure to the automation engine. So it expects definitely a source operating system folder, yeah, which could be TMP export, something where we pre-exported something. Furthermore, we can specify a subfolder in this root folder if we would like to import only a specific folder of this root folder. Here, the same as the recursive possibility, yeah, to go deeper and deeper, and the replace parameter, which gives the information what has to be done if the object in the automation engine already exists. In this case, it will either replace it or it will leave it out. It will skip it. Then one possibility for the filtering, maybe we would like to exclude some XML files, because all objects are exported as separate XML files. It could well be that we would like to carve out one XML file during the import, and that's why we have an exclude name here. This is more or less, I'm not quite sure if this is correct. Maybe this has to be like the jobs.test.xml. Even here we've got a thread amount parameter to either increase or decrease the performance. Okay, then we've got the export change, and this is used to, if you're familiar with the DB change utility, which is used to adjust the transport case. That way that, for example, specific jobs which are using the agent ABC should be changed to XYZ. And this is exactly what the export change action is doing, but not with a transport case, but with the XML export files. And it's using exactly the same rule set. So if you are using the DB change, then you need a so-called change file, which contains the rule set, like if the job is named like XYZ, then the host, which is contained or which is named as ABC, should be changed to XYZ. This can be done with the export change. Yeah, I'm a little bit sorry. I have to hurry up a little bit. Here we've got a calendar merge action, and I hope that you will know what it does. It combines calendar keywords of two existing calendars into a third one, which means the first parameter is a specific calendar name, the second is another calendar name, and we have to specify a final calendar name. Maybe the first one is Carla.test1, the second one is Carla.test2, and the final shall be Carla.combined. So it will gather all these keywords from test1 and test2, and to put everything in a Carla.combined, a final calendar object, which is created in a specific folder path, for example, /system/calendars. The same we have for schedule merge, but here we are not talking about calendar keywords, we're talking about tasks which are defined in this schedule objects. And even here we've got one schedule name as the first schedule object, and the second schedule name as the second schedule object, which could be test1 and test2, and the final one should be JSCH combined. And then it will contain all tasks of both schedule objects, including all parameters, including the calendar definition, including the first, the earliest start time, and so on and so on. Yeah? And the final one shall be stored in the folder system/schedules. Okay, I probably soon go over this. Here you can export and import the agent group information. Yeah, so on the one hand, you can read it. On the other one, you can create it. The same for login objects. Yeah, so some information about logins. Yeah, so what's inside my login objects, and I have to put this in a TXT file, and afterwards I have to create the logins corresponding on that file. Yeah, but unfortunately without a password. Here are the very last two modules, and these are a little bit more interesting, I guess. The first one is called tasks remove. Let's imagine you have a tasks window or a monitoring view which is completely overwhelmed. It's completely, there are several tasks where you would like to get rid of. Yeah. How could you do that? You could either select those tasks and cancel them and deactivate them one by one, or maybe in sets. But using this module, you can quit or cancel these tasks, and optional, you can include the deactivation afterwards. And here you can see what you need for that. So first of all, we need a specific name. Which tasks would you like to remove? And here you can specify specific name using asterisk or wildcards as well. Or you can just use an asterisk, which would mean that you would like to get rid of everything. You can specify a specific type, or you can exclude some tasks to be removed. And this recursive means that, for example, a cancellation will be done recursively. And afterwards, if you either has quitted some of these things or cancel these things, you can deactivate them as well. Yeah, so it's some customers, or even my colleagues, some of them are probably using SQL statements for that. But from my opinion, it's quite, it could be, the API is definitely more accurate on that, because it exactly knows when you press a cancellation or when you press a deactivation, then you don't have to think about what kind of SQL statement do I need for that. Yeah, because during the evolvement of Automic, it could well be that even this SQL statement will change. The API will definitely not change. Yeah, there you can just execute one of those functionalities, and then it will do what it should do without knowing about the SQL statements. Okay, the very final module is the tasks modify state. And this comes up when you probably think about when you have your monitoring view and you have a lot of tasks which are in a very strange status, like inconsistent, like generation or generating, yeah, some kind of states where they are where you have the impression that they don't come to an end, and you have to modify the status one by one to end it okay or end it not okay. And this is what this module is doing. It changes the state of the active task or tasks. Yeah, so think about 1,000 tasks which have to be changed manually. Then you all have to specify these or to select these one by one. You have to click modify, then you have to click modify state, and then you have to choose what kind of state they should finally have. And this could be quite intensive. Yeah, this can be automated with task modify state. And here you can see what you definitely need for that. You need the new state by using the code number, the 1900 for ended OK, for example. Oops. Furthermore, you need to know what tasks you would like to modify. Yeah, so even here you have to include a naming pattern. You can use a filter on the types. Yeah? So you don't you just want to modify states on jobs and workflows. Maybe you can specify this agent, the agent of the task, which could be win01, or which is using a specific queue, like queue.test or client queue or whatever. Afterwards, once you have modified the state and you have to put it to ended OK, maybe you would like to deactivate them in a row. Yeah, and then you can set these to true, this to true or false. Yeah, if it's set to true, then you put this to ended OK, and then it will be deactivated, and then you don't see it anymore. Okay. So these are some additional actions which are also covered by the automation CLI. And the first ones were just a subset. And with this, I would like to show you that it's not limited. Yeah, you always have to think about everything what you can do with the front end. Yeah, so creating objects, deleting objects, modifying objects, whatever, as complex as you can imagine, can be done by the automation CLI. I will not go through to that right now, but I would really like to jump to the, and many more. I would really like to jump to the questions and answers. And first of all, I've created some questions by myself and the answers for that, because I'm quite sure that you're interested in that. So first of all, what's about the compatibility? The automation action pack is compatible to version 24, 21, and version 12. Yeah? So even version 12 will be working on that. The minimum is Java 11. Yeah? So you always have to ensure that the Java 11 installation is installed next to your agent, because your agent is executing, at the end of the day, this java-jar automation CLI.jar. Next question would be where to download this action pack. I know you're quite familiar with the marketplace.automic.com, but this is not where it's located. Yeah, if you are interested in this action pack, then you should contact Tricise. So you have to contact us, or you can go through to the website https://automation.tricise.com. Then you get definitely more information about the action pack and probably a possibility where you can buy it directly. The question about how to update the new version. Yeah, so let's imagine you already have that action pack. How to update a new version, or how to receive what happens if you would like to update your action pack. Even in this case, the action pack is always underneath versioning, and I'm trying to write down always the release notes so that we are always aware of what happened during the this solution lifecycle, so that we can definitely say from this version to that version the following changes were made, and then you can decide if it's worth for you probably to order an upgrade of this action pack. If you would like to order that, then the same way, contact us over the website, or get in contact with the account manager, or with our services. Oops. The very last question, why not REST API? Because this solution is definitely based on Java API. And in fact, that the REST API is actually not as mighty as the Java API, at least until now. We kept it until now based on the Java API. At that point, where we definitely need a specific action, where either the Java API is not accessible anymore, or the REST API has more functionality, and especially a functionality which is definitely needed and is not covered by the Java API, we will definitely change the framework from the Java API to the REST API. Yeah, that's it so far. So now I would like to ask you if you have further more questions which may be answered. Okay, if not, then I will close the call now. And yeah, I wish you a nice rest of the week. Bye.